Yeah, we're gonna watch. I gotta eat dinner, and we're watching RayareReviewing's. Let's play it.
Link must go to Death Mountain's trail. Free dungeons hold. Spirit
Wow.
should close. Link must stay here. He has a bond with the princess. Trifles of gold. The master's soul. The chosen one. The fearless child. Travelers through time. The evil power won't win the fight. The kingdom needs him. Slay the blind.
The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is a game that needs no introduction. So let's skip it. I'm joking, let's be serious. At face value, good fights evil. Save the princess, save the world. But there is so much more to it than that. It's an adventure of growth, pain, sadness, loss, discovery, innocence, from being inexperienced to experienced, existence and mortality, and many more mature themes that you wouldn't expect from a video game starring a boy with green clothes who looks like an elf and he's got a little fairy. One of you two are gonna have to dress up like an elf, and one of you two is gonna have to be a fairy. And I will be the king.
Big man, no. That ain't even making no sense, fam.
Hey, listen, I'm down.
It's really hard to look at this game without nostalgia blindness when I would consider the N64 among my favourite consoles of all time, with this game here playing the biggest role in my childhood with video games. And I'm not alone in this, but when people ask for my favourite games of all time, I rarely say this game. It's not the one that's on my mind when I personally think of the best video games of all time. It's just so different, and it's not one I associate with fun like I would a Mario 64. I associate journey, experiences and personal development with this game. Don't get me wrong, it has its fun moments. They made sure to make you laugh as well as get goosebumps. But this game comes to mind only when I think of N64's best games. I think immediately Super Mario 64, GoldenEye, and of course Ocarina of Time. And check many top 100 games and you will see this game here likely at the top. Ocarina stands the test of time for its innovation, complex themes and compelling story, revolutionary gameplay, and Nintendo polish so pristine for the time that you could see your own reflection. Just make sure it doesn't jump on your sword and annoy you. As you can see, the visuals are not what you would expect from the original N64 game. This is a retexture mod for the GameCube Collector's Edition. I wanted this video to be widescreen, and why not show off how good this game can look? Many people consider this the current definitive way to play Ocarina, and I'm happy to say I do too. The original graphics, they don't bother me too much, but I wanted that DVD rip quality. This project here was a challenge to myself. This was more of a test of my own patience and fortitude, taking inspiration from one of my biggest inspirations. Did you make the connection? The link? Before I even started writing this video, I said to myself, I wanted to make a 1 hour long video about Ocarina of Time. Maybe that was a naive, immature thought, and there was a part of me that said, you can't do it, you shouldn't do it. But that was the experienced, mature part of me telling the hopeful, adventurous part to go back to sleep. You don't have your fairy yet. The game starts with the great Deku Tree talking to Link as he lays in his bed fast asleep. The Deku Tree says he lives in the forest with the Kokiri kids and they all have fairies, excluding Link. Even he shudders because that's low-key kinda creepy. But what's the reason for that? Yikes, that thunder nearly knocked me out of my seat. Well, I'm writing this in bed and recording it while sitting, so let's say, logically, it makes sense. Link has a prophetic dream about Ganondorf chasing the princess. Well, he doesn't know this. He just sees a girl fleeing from a creepy man on a horse. And the man looks at him and he's like, "Yo, big man, which way did the girl with the horse go, fam?" "Boy, I'm talking to you, blood." And the Deku Tree's like,
Hey, Navi, listen.
"You gotta befriend the boy with the no fairy. It's time for him to do the thing he has to do." Then it's like, boing. She bounces off the thing. She's useless. Anyway, alright, Counterfeit, you got the big responsibility. Go take Bootleg, talk to the tree out there, the big man tree. Go on, leave.
Yo, fam, you got an objective on man or something? Man is feeling kinda stupid about this sort of, like, what is man doing talking to trees? Why I've got to be doing this sort of thing, blood?
Why don't you pay attention?
Blood, man is talking directly to a tree. This ain't Wizard of Oz. How comes man's talking to it? Now the tree ain't even responding. This is some stupidness, blood. I see you have a fairy. You must embark on a quest through time. Overcome challenges put forth by the ancient gods. Build your resilience and other necessary attributes finally when the evil king is conquered and brought to his knees. You must use the courage within you to put an end to the formidable adversary. Do you want to hear all that again? That took time, blood. Man's got a shopping list of things to do, big man. Nafa, I'm gone, blood.
Navi wakes Link up. I like the way he hangs his legs over his bed and he swings them because it really sets the theme for the first portion of this game. The naive child has no clue that he's meant to save Hyrule, basically ruining the franchise, forcing Nintendo to fabricate some bogus timeline. What the? Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, I lost the plot for a moment there. There is nothing wrong with the timeline. I'm sure it makes sense. The music is whimsical and magical, which is a good representation of childhood innocence. It really is some Peter Pan stuff right here. There's kids everywhere and they're all like, "Hello, press Z L targeting to come talk to me. Nice time, happy yes." But Mido's like, "Hell no, back up, move back. You ain't even got a shield or sword. There's a giant tunic boy-eating plant right behind me. I ain't finna tell your parents you got munched by a plant." Everyone gives Mido a hard time, but he's the realest guy in this whole game. Well, him and that dude at the entrance who's like, "The Deku Tree says if you go there, you will die. You cannot leave. You will be dead, killed dead." What are you gonna do? Go past Mido with nothing and get devoured and gobbled? It's a subtle commentary, I feel. This small detail says a lot about this game and childhood in general. An adult or someone experienced tells you stop. No, you're not ready. You're not equipped to tackle this challenge. I should know. You're meant to listen. I know he's a kid, but there is some sort of anti-aging pollen flying around in the air, so experience is what Mido has. But the ones with the knowledge are always seen as the bad guy for looking out, because they didn't sugarcoat it. Anyway, the Kokiri Forest serves as a tutorial to learn a bunch of basic mechanics from crawling, jumping, platforming, and even swimming to learn how to earn money and use the economy. And you all know how much I love a video game economy. 5 or 10 minutes of looking around gets you the sword, and you'll naturally accumulate enough currency to acquire the shield from the shop. The shop's essential items are always reasonably priced. Link will only ever need to buy a shield at the shop, and this goes for later in the game when getting upgraded to the Hylian shield. Getting 80 rupees will come naturally. Oh yeah, Counterfeit, don't forget your shield and sword. It's too dangerous to go alone.
But that is relatively irresponsible. Man ain't feeling appreciated on his destiny, big man.
He won't survive a day.
All of these basic skills will be used in the first dungeon, and you'll learn many more skills in there too. Many accidental discoveries acquired from trial and error, which this game is the master of. Think about the way you jump in this game. You jump by running off a ledge. You would most likely discover this by accident. Before entering the shop in Kokiri Forest, you would learn about Z targeting to lock onto things considered the point of interest by Navi. Z targeting is used in combat and interactions to make the 3D environment a lot more manageable. On the GameCube Collector's Edition, this is called L targeting. I prefer to say Z targeting, so we'll stick with that one. The first dungeon is inside the Great Deku Tree. The design and environment looks like the inside of an old tree. He's like, "Ganon friggin' poisoned me! Go inside and unpoison me, and I'll give you a compliment." Then he opens up like, he opens his mouth wider than the dude who can fit a whole can in his mouth. The puzzles are really simple here, and they only serve to expand upon your basic skills you know. Equipping you with a slingshot, which makes it so you can do long distance combat. You fight a pretty intimidating boss at the end of the dungeon, but it's really weak. By the end of the first dungeon, you will have the fundamentals with gameplay. The Deku Tree says after you defeat Goma that his fate was doomed, even before Link went inside to save him from his terrible fate. If he was gonna croak anyway, why did I have to do all of that? It's almost like it was a pointless surgery and it just served as a purpose to test his courage. Oh, Okay, so he dies. Navi says goodbye and they move on with no time to waste. I told you it's pretty deep. The elder of the forest who's meant to guide and protect all these kids is now gone. Mido is angry and blames Link. This is a sad start to your journey. He just lost his father figure, the whole town have. And some of them might feel like Link, the one without a fairy, is responsible. As you go to leave the town, the kid who says if you leave you'll die isn't there to stop you. But someone who does stop you is the same girl who was there to greet you as you woke up. She gives you a departing gift, which is an ocarina, but Link can't stay around forever. He has an important mission bestowed on him, and he has to get going after this short interaction. He knows he will always have a friend in her, and she does too. Once you leave Kokiri Forest, the adventure feels like it truly begins, because now you can run across Hyrule Field. I mean, roll across Hyrule Field. Who the hell runs Hyrule? Man don't run on Hyrule, man rolls true big man. I personally like to side hop around because it always feels like a faster form of travel. There isn't much you can do here in all honesty, but the feeling is there that the world has just become your oyster. The feeling that you're now allowed out past your bedtime and you can do what you want. You can't buy Call of Duty just yet, but you can stay out until midnight and fight skeletons. I don't know what it is about this field. Maybe it's nostalgia because I always associated this field with freedom and a joyful stage in my life. Just running across this field is so liberating with the remarkable soundtrack playing. Looking at things in the distance slowly coming closer as you run in a straight line feels, I don't know, it's like when you're a kid and you're saying, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Then you're finally there. It's a sense of accomplishment. There's this sense of relief, but also this sense of joy that you're going to a place you have permission to go, while your elf buddies are still in their hometown being losers who can't lift stones. In all honesty, it's pretty sparse. But each time nighttime comes and the enemies come out to attack you, it's a constant reminder of that kid who says it's too dangerous to go. Navi will also remind you to get on with your objective occasionally if you goof around too much. Speaking of such a thing, people have complaints about Navi that she's too annoying and constantly halting gameplay, and she's pretty much the only downside to this game. I personally never found her annoying. You typically have to activate her for her to intervene with your gameplay, but the owl, what a chief! An owl ruined the pacing of the gameplay more than a fairy did. Ow! 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 This guy is cool the way he perches and swoops away. He clearly knows what's up and it's a good indication you're on the right path. He has a lot of good information. But he can't half waffle on. This old goober speaks so much. Nintendo, you were trolling with this one. He makes Navi look like a guardian angel in comparison. But not you. You look like an old creepy creep with wings.
I think I look stylish. My wingstick brings the boys to the yard.
A lot of the NPCs in this game feels like they have their own stories to tell and lives they live, and you're just a passenger here temporarily on a mission to save every single one of them, and they are none the wiser. I want to eventually talk about some of the side quests and side characters. There are so many NPCs that add so much substance to the world, and there could be a whole video about that, but I have my favourite portions. The second dungeon is inside the Dongo's cavern, and the third and final dungeon at this stage in the game is inside Lord Jabu Jabu's belly. It doesn't sound like much when said like that, but credit where credit's due. They put a lot of thought into these locations and how they connect with the universe and recurring locations in the franchise. Like with the Great Deku Tree, these dungeons look exactly like you'd imagine. The inside of a mountain slash volcano dinosaur thing, I guess, and the inside of a whale. There isn't much more to say about these dungeons, just like the first one. The puzzles and challenges are pretty simple. Aesthetically, they look like you'd imagine, but they're not really that difficult. They do try to throw a curveball at you here and there with one or two puzzles that require you to think outside of the box slightly, but after you do the puzzles, you're like, okay, I knew it. That makes sense. They are balanced really well in terms of challenge, and even when you do get stuck, the skills you learn from overcoming these obstacles are transferable, as you'll always think to look in places that caught you off guard before. I like these 3 dungeons even though they're straightforward. They serve as a decent challenge that reward you with a heart container and help you take the training wheels off without ruining the pace at all. Progression in Zelda games is one of the most satisfying experiences because Nintendo make a big deal about development. Every time you open a chest that gives you a key item, you get a jingle that never gets old. Oh my god, a complaint that I do agree with though is that Link unnecessarily holds every single item over his head. There's no need to do it for everything. They thought so well about replay value in this game, but not so well about the item collecting side of things. If I open a chest and it's a heart refill or a rupee, just give it to me and let me move on.
Hey! Listen!
Why, what? What? Okay, yeah, we got all the stones and it's time to move on. One more run across the luscious Hyrule field. Just a few more steps, then up. Wait. Why is the bridge up? A cutscene? What's going on here? Oh, there's Zelda. Zelda's fleeing. What did she just throw? I'll go check that out in a moment. Could get some good money for a princess item on eBay. Man, I'm pretty sure I got deja vu here. This seems awfully familiar. I had a dream just like this. She was running away from a creepy man who chased after her on a dark horse. He looked at me like I was a delicious snack. He lifted up his hand while looking at me. Wait, hold on, wait, Navi. I tell you something, when I got to this point in the game on first play, I thought the game would be ending soon. I could not have been more wrong. I thought that because up to this point you've explored a lot of the map, done a bunch of satisfying dungeons, probably played up to 10 or so hours first time around, but this game is about to say put the big boy pants on. Literally, you enter the Temple of Time, hear the choir chanting the iconic godly music. You put the spiritual stones down you got from the trials of childhood, they unlock the door of time, revealing the legendary weapon that transcends through the ages. This moment here, where Link walks up to the Master Sword and accepts the challenge to take the next step, this might be the greatest moment in video game history.
Agreed. 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 Oh, cut out Ganondorf. Oh, we got Ganon.
That never gets old. That's what this game is about. The investment of your time leading up to these grand instances that have a culmination from your dedication and commitment.
Man,
you can't just jump into this game and be like, I'll collect 2 stars and close it off. Oh, I had fun, I'm done for now. You have to push through the grit to get to the big payoff at the end. Oh my god, he's a grown man. How do the clothes still fit? What the hell did he eat? Who put his clothes on him and his underwear? There's so many questions. Not enough time. This is where the game truly picks up. It's no more small kids running around happy and laughing, fighting snappy plants, using sticks and magic beans. It's Resident Evil nightmare fuel corpse men who want to hug the spirit out of you. Everything has been taken over by evil or destroyed, and no one is around apart from those who are deranged and tarnished and have nothing to live for. The stuff you learn from a kid only carries over in the mind of the player. You can't use the boomerang or the slingshot. Some of your possessions you acquired as a child have no belonging in adulthood. Counterfeit, why do you still look the same? You're meant to be taller and stronger, better looking.
Big man, look at me. I'm already at my maximum height and strength and looks and team blood. This ain't no video game. This is real life. Cha!
A big theme in this game is growth and learning, childhood to adulthood, developing maturity, using the skills and talents learned from a kid combined with the vision and strength that comes with being an adult. Think of being as a child as building a foundation. You learn the fundamentals in early life and improve upon these skills throughout your development. This is reflective of real life. Going back to this game, the child Link parts are so much easier, simple and straightforward, and the adult parts are overwhelming and intimidating. Everything through the child's eyes that he experiences are flourishing and full of life, full of hope and prosperity. You don't think anything bad could happen. Even the people are like, Hyrule is good, nothing can go wrong for me.
Oh, we got
But you come back to the same locations in adulthood, it's run down, death everywhere, and all hope is lost. This is similar to real life, most likely relatable to the majority of people in the real world. If you've ever returned to a place you visited as a kid or your hometown, it's likely changed. Everyone you knew has moved away. A lot of the time the government stepped in, cut all the trees down, demolished all the homes and put corporate buildings in, and you no longer see kids running around having fun with a carefree nature. Imagine it's like gentrification with evil and depravity. When you come back to Kokiri Forest as an adult, it feels so much smaller. It's overrun by enemies, it's a shadow of its former self, and it's pretty sad to see how, in a blink of an eye, his childhood has turned into a vessel. Just like every other place he's visited. This probably hits close to home for everyone. Time is not kind. If you try to play this area the same way you did at the start of the game, you realize pretty quickly that it's so different. It's like trying to play in a kid's playpen or revisit in a park you loved as a kid. The joy is completely gone. There was a video from Cinemassacre where James Rolfe turned 30 and wanted to understand this dream he kept having where he'd seen a dragon. It scared him as a kid, but this was his source of inspiration to get into filmmaking. The dragon would shoot water and it was an attraction in a play park. I guess this is his origin story like Batman. But it's a pretty cool video, and it's the perfect representation of how you can have one perspective as a child and your imagination can be the foundation of your passion and drive as an adult.
Only wastemans are scared of things like bats or toy dragons. Big man like me ain't scared of nothing, fam. If I see a bat, I'll be like, psh, so what, don't care about flap, bang, won't even budge an inch, fam. If a bat comes, I'll be like, yeah, dead thing. Straight sliced up his whole team, fam. Yo, man would straight chef him up big time, fam.
Bruh, I swear you're meant to be a silent protagonist. What's all this talking about? But real talk, there is a bat right behind your head.
Big man, you need to go Temple of Time and Rock, quick fast. Man ain't in the mood for your shenanigans. Nah, fam, I'm gone, blood.
I never thought the day would come where I'd actually be an adult. I thought I'd be a small boy forever. It's not like adult Link is really an adult. He's like 16 or 17. He'd be considered a minor and not even a legal adult in many countries. So imagine being forced to mature from like the age of 9 or 10, from childhood, skipping adolescence, dropped into an adult body just because it's stronger. Then you're told the world depends on you. Sometimes real life feels this way, and this game captures this subtle detail in such a peculiar way. The narrative of Ocarina of Time is one that very few games can pull off, especially one with a silent protagonist who doesn't express his feelings. But it's the development into my own adulthood in real life that makes me see this game from a different perspective. A lot of video game developers use metaphors to relate to the real world struggles. I haven't personally played Celeste, but I hear it's a great analogy for depression. It's about overcoming a huge obstacle that constantly challenges the player. Artists, content creators, dancers, musicians, in many forms of expression, people do this all the time, using their personal struggles and demons as a metaphor when designing their art. This game perfectly captures how lack of responsibility in childhood can turn to dread and sadness with aging through time. Sometimes you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders, and sometimes you actually do. We all have a Ganon in our real life. It's how I can relate to this game and why this game is so important to me. Upon waking up, you're told there are 6 medallions that adult Link must get, and 5 temples to overcome. You're given the light medallion immediately by the sage and told to wake up the other sages and get their medallions too. They are located in the temples. These sages are people from his childhood coincidentally, and they might not know their importance to the world. Forest Temple is deep in the Lost Woods and is behind the location where he met Saria as a kid. The Fire Temple is in the heart of Death Mountain and requires an adult tunic that is heat resistant. The Water Temple is at the bottom of Lake Hylia and requires the iron boots and a blue tunic for breathing underwater. The Shadow Temple is in the back of the graveyard, and the Spirit Temple is across the desert. It requires Link to travel back in time and uses child form to assist the adult. At first, when you become adult Link, you're unable to put the sword back and return to child Link. This is because Sheik, who is a friend assisting you on your journey, stands in the way, and you have to progress a bit before being allowed to return the sword. This gives you a chance to get used to your new body and explore the surroundings. There isn't much to see in the future. It's all been ravished by time and evil. You naturally want to return to your childhood because adulthood is bleak. But you're being physically stopped by someone who knows a lot about your journey and where you should go next. As a kid, the world is so pretty and everything is so big. You become an adult and it's easy to jump up the ledges you used to struggle to climb up. Even the weapons that transfer over that you can use as an adult, you go from using them like a small child who isn't strong enough to hold them, to using them properly as an adult who's like, I don't need to use a slingshot, I ain't Bart Simpson, I'm OJ Simpson, give me the gloves and the big blade.
Oh, no.
Everyone you meet as a child is happy-go-lucky and has a positive perspective on life, but as an adult, they're turned into zombies or have been overcome with negativity, greed, or death. Child Link's dungeons are wacky and weird. You go inside the mouth of a big tree, the mouth of a giant whale, and the butt of a volcano. Adult Link has huge temples that you have to conquer using the knowledge gained as a kid, that end with re-establishing relationships with people from his past and realizing they are just as important too. And you have to all join forces to overcome evil. The dungeons that Child Link goes to are almost an exaggeration, as if the kid went, I went into a giant whale and rescued someone. I climbed inside a tree and killed a giant spider. I defeated a dinosaur inside a volcano. They sound like exaggerations of a wild mind. Maybe it's tangible, maybe they happened but a bit differently than he remembers, or his perspective on what he sees is exaggerated to some degree. Think about in real life, some of our childhood experiences are much worse than we remember, or just feel that way because we don't have the mental capacity to deal with it in a calm and collected disposition. Our imagination can get the best of us at times. Like with that Cinemassacre video, a child's imagination can be wild, or retrospectively our memories can be interpreted differently in adulthood. When in contrast, the locations Adult Link tackled are visible from the start, Even as a kid, you can see some of these places. You can't quite get to them officially, but they exist. You can go through the Lost Woods and see the Forest Temple entrance, and this goes for a few of the other temples such as the Fire and Water Temple too. Child Link will briefly see them while naturally progressing, causing you to take mental notes. Let's take a mental note about mental notes. Even for one of the temples, Link has to return as a child and beat a significant portion of it. And various times you need to travel back to Child Link to progress as Adult Link. Sometimes you do it just to change pace a bit because the adult experiences are intense and they don't hold your hand. It can get quite lonely and bleak. Because of the way time works, the impact he has on the world as a child will remain that way when returning as an adult. The use of time in this aspect of the game is perfect. I'm glad they didn't milk that because it would have become tedious and took away from the value that time travel has. They only needed you to reach back into childhood a handful of times to offer a solution to a problem. I do have my complaints about the official Hyrule Historia timeline. I personally feel it doesn't make sense, and it's because of this aspect of the game. If Link travels back in time, anything done in the future becomes undone, but not the other way around. I know this is a controversial topic in the Zelda community and it's so complicated that I barely wanted to even say that, but I don't like how there's 3 timelines when we get one ending. Please explain it to me. I am more than willing to have it explained and change my view. Does it have something to do with the fact that Link can physically take items back into the past with him from the future, so that affects time and reality somehow? It's just so confusing to me, and I personally like to have the most simple outcome. Time travel is one of my favourite things in media. I love TV shows and movies based on time travel. Even shows like Fringe that deal with alternate dimensions too. So yeah, put a comment explaining it. I would like to discuss this topic. This game is far from perfect in regards to design. Some things are not so intuitive. You would be saying, what were they thinking with that so many times? For example, throwing the bomb at the rolling Goron, it doesn't really feel like that should be the solution to that problem. Especially that it has to be timed so immaculately and executed to what feels like pixel perfection. As a kid, the rolling Goron is huge and slow, but as an adult, he's quick and small. There are many instances like this where you're like, what the hell? Fortunately, a lot of these instances are optional, but I do excuse a lot of these things because gaming was going through its own growing pain stage itself. With a lot of franchises entering the third dimension for the first time, and Ocarina of Time being the grandfather great Deku Tree of action-adventure puzzle games, what do you expect really? So yeah, going back to mental notes. This game in regards to story and progression is so good at subtly guiding you, so I have to give it maximum praise homage for this. From the start, they make you explore and mess around, which indirectly allows you to get used to the controls, characters and gather resources in the area to move forward with indirectly learning everything you needed to know without much intention. When you dive off the waterfall in Zora's domain, you'll see the secret passage to Lake Hylia. After completing the diving game, you'll get the scale and you know you can go through there. And through there, you'll get the bottle with Princess Zora's letter inside. While doing that, you'll see the water temple in the distance. There are constant mental notes you should be taking. I actually made a diary when playing Wind Waker because I was constantly seeing places of interest. I'm so glad that Breath of the Wild had markers because that's the future of Zelda games right there.
Man, I swear this is a mad thing. I was told go by the hench bush. I'm so confused because I feel like I've been to this place already, fam. Bootleg, wagwan then.
Hey, listen! I said get it on before nightfall.
For real, big man, you a pagan, you ain't no use. I got the mind to put you in a bottle and throw you in the ocean, fam.
Fine, but don't come crying to me asking me to be revived.
I'm not the Phoenix down.
A lot of ideas in this game do feel like trial and error and less about naturally making sense to come to a conclusion. I do like how when you see a Triforce or a special looking plaque or tile on the floor, you instantly think to try your Ocarina. Then the game gives you a jingle to indicate that's correct, and that feeling is satisfying. Then you just gotta get the right song. Another complaint about this game is how you have to put the Ocarina away and go to the song list and double check it. Most fans of this game probably know the majority of songs off by heart. And don't act like you don't love to learn to play these songs in the game. It gives you the idea that you could transfer these skills to the real instrument. you end up playing the important song so many times it becomes easy to play. And most of the time they're just 3 notes repeated twice in a row. I do understand why people might be annoyed having to read the song and be forced to remember it. But this minor inconvenience of double checking that you're playing the correct song, it's not the same level of annoyance as the water temple constantly changing your boots, which I cannot defend. That was a poor decision in retrospect. The adult temples are more mature in terms of design and location too. They are sacred places, where people likely worship and respected their importance to Hyrule. All of these locations are clearly very old, but they still stand even though time hasn't been kind to Hyrule. You see people go on negatively about the water temple, but there is no denying that it's designed so beautifully. The relaxing music and beautiful colour palette will make the hours you spend in there be in complete awe of the architecture. And this goes for all the other temples too, their use of music and colour palette to create such a unique and memorable atmosphere. My personal favourite is the Fire Temple, because you get the Megaton Hammer. You go inside a volcano, you have the longest and best song to play on Ocarina to fast travel there, you save the Gorons, and they're the best species because they eat rocks. It's just a bit more aggressive and intense in this temple, and I like that. From Child Link, the pattern in this game is do something in the overworld, go to the dungeon. Do something in the overworld, go to the dungeon. Do something in the overworld. Go to the dungeon. When you do something in the overworld, it's usually getting an item of some sort to assist you. And the first something you do in the overworld as Link is get the magnum opus of Zelda weapons, the hookshot. This weapon, oh man, this weapon, it's the weapon that pretty much defines Link as a character. The hookshot is a double-edged sword though. Or more like a bittersweet gift. It's so fun to use, but only has specific uses. You can use it in combat, but the fun comes from using it to get to high or far places. But you can't go anywhere you want with it. It's typically places that have a target. You can hookshot onto roofs, wood, and other surfaces that you can climb, and chests, but even these are very limited. You use it in a cool way to get to the forest temple, but you don't suddenly become Spider-Man with this, which is quite disappointing. This happens a lot with weapons you find in this game. Excluding one of the most important, which is the bottle, it has so many purposes. Bottle can carry many different things from bugs to fairies and potions. The contents of a bottle come with different benefits which drastically change the difficulty of the game. Also, it depends on how many you have. You'll find bottles from doing side quests, but one is story related. This item is extremely versatile, and you'll be using it on a regular occasion to progress. The hover boots can serve as a way to cover more distance than the jump, but you slide around in it like you're on ice with them. It's annoying. The tunics too. They look cool being able to change your colour of your clothes, but it's not like there's many heated environments. This is a problem with this game's puzzles. You either use the item you just got before the temple, or you use the item you got in the temple, then milk it until it's over. And I feel that this makes the puzzles in dungeons and temples too simple. A lot of the puzzles are press a switch, shoot an eye, clear a room, or use the item you just got to do a thing in that current location. I'm not hating on the caliber of puzzles, I'm just pointing out how I feel about the puzzles aspect of this game. Maybe if they made you use every single item you previously acquired a few times in subsequent dungeons, then it would add a bit more variety. It might have made the game a bit more difficult, but it also would have made the challenges higher in terms of puzzles. And look, I'm not talking about intense puzzles. Maybe in the Shadow Temple there's a room that would require you to use the iron boots and blue tunic, and while you're under the water you have to remember a pattern on the wall. There would also be a few variants of this code so you couldn't cheese it, and every time it's random. But before you go into the water there's a heated button you have to press, and because it's old and rusted you need to use the hammer to press it, and maybe you need the red tunic to go near it. There could even be a way to incorporate the bow and arrow too by having to shoot the eye switches on the wall, because you need to shoot them in a sequence of a code that you remembered under the water, and next to the wall of eyes would be a pattern of colours. I feel that would have been cool to see. Instinctively you would have learned that rusty switches mean hammer time. A pool of water means go in and explore for something of importance related to this room. And because there's a wall of eyes with colours and patterns next to it, you need to learn the correct sequence. It would all make sense to you. Exploring the temples, battling enemies and discovering things complements the more simpler puzzles. So I do try to look at the dungeons as a whole instead of just seeing a lot of rooms that consist of pull a block, climb a thing, hit a thing. Opening the big chests, it never gets old. It's always rewarding. I like the slow reveal, the build up and excitement. It's like, you know, you're getting a pair of socks for Christmas, but you're getting new socks and you get to unwrap it. It's part of the experience. Collecting hearts at the end of temples is like an icing on a cake because it adds to the collectathon. On top of that, it's a reward of overcoming a challenge. But small chests, they should have just made it an instant open. Even though it's only a few seconds to open, it's nearly always a regret. Just give me a small key, let me go. Dungeons have a big chest for the map, compass, boss key, and a weapon typically used for the temple and boss. But the boss key chest looks like some medieval design, and seeing that key is a reminder you've nearly vanquished the evil from this location, and you're one more step closer to restoring light to the kingdom.
Yo, big man, I spoke to the tree. Man was wandering around wilderness looking for the MacGuffins and man couldn't find a thing. Did you have us deliberately dress up just to look like mugs? Speak for yourself.
I look fabulous.
Guys, do you think this is a joke? We are the chosen ones. This is our epic adventure. Excuse me if you don't feel like this is important. Combat is another aspect of this game that is quite simple. Even though you have a wide variety of items, using a sword is usually the best way to fight. I like fighting against certain enemies like the Stalfos because it feels like it can be a proper sword fight. They will lunge at you, use their shield so you can't spam. A lot of enemies have you waiting for an opening to attack, so it feels like there's a lot of downtime for most fights. And Stalfos is not innocent of this. I could see the complaint with that, but fighting things like bats is so much more annoying. Such a big inconvenience, especially when fighting them in locations that are not spacious. There are mini bosses who are a bit more challenging than regular enemies, such as the Iron Knuckle. I enjoy battling these guys, especially when I've got the big Goron sword. I feel like I'm playing the Dark Souls of Zelda games. At the end of each dungeon, and temple is a boss. I really like the boss battles in this game. They are iconic. Not too much of a challenge if you carry fairies and get extra heart containers, but I never get bored of battling these bosses, even though the Achilles heel takes away some of the fun. It would have been nice if there was multiple ways to defeat bosses, allowing you to think outside of the box. Boss battles are engaging, but this is due mainly to the boss music theme. Oh my god, the music! It's time to talk about the music. Sorry, I'm doing it now because there might not be a chance. When people think about this game, the one thing that sticks out as much, if not more than the story, is the music. Let's play a few of the legendary themes now just to satisfy our nostalgia. You've got music like Zelda's Lullaby, Epona's song, Song of Storms, and of course, the greater than greatness Gerudo Valley theme. Come on, that is a blessing. As Dashi would say, who was in the studio? Bobby, who was in the studio? My boy! What? Oh my shit! Who was in the studio?
I'm sorry, I get distracted.
Who was in the studio?
Good lord, this makes me want to shake my
Ring feathers.
The soundtrack and sound direction in general is sensational. Music is used in combat when you're under threat. It gets you to put your guard up and pinpoint your focus. The music is telling you this guy means business and so should you. You get a change of music from morning to night. It says it's a new day, new opportunities, there's still hope, you've survived the challenge. Music is used to indicate things such as danger, discovery, challenge, change of weather, or to set the mood. The game is named after a musical instrument after all, the Ocarina. It plays an imperative role to the story. There's a total of 12 songs to learn, and when played on the legendary Ocarina can have various different magical effects within the world. Most people who are nostalgic about this game can put it down to the iconic music for the most part. From the title screen, the melodic, reassuring composition comforts you. It gives you the idea this adventure is about to be something unique. It's less bombastic than most journeys want to go for. It has its moments, but this pilgrimage is different. It wants to speak to your soul, and the best language for that is sound. Speaking of such a thing, Link grunts a lot. He's like a tennis player. And his grunts are some of the most iconic sounds in gaming ever. Period. This is the closest we get to hearing his voice. He doesn't use conventional language. Our silent protagonist just grunts. But they are the sound of pure courage and the embodiment of determination. told you he's a silent protagonist, so why do you talk?
Shut up, you mug, about silent protagonist this, the Furthermore, fam, come closer, fam, come closer. Yeah.
The gameplay is not as smooth as Breath of the Wild. It's hardly the latest update of the Unreal Engine. Link is a bit clunky, a bit too clunky. Everything revolves around the Z targeting or standing still to aim, because this was the time of single analog, so there is no free aim while walking or smooth camera control. It's very hard to be precise with things that require precision. You constantly have to correct the camera to platform and sometimes just to see where you're going. There is one moment where running up Zora's domain, the camera is perfect, but that's a false sense of security. Don't get addicted. But this is using retrospective vision. At the time it was early 3D and this was one of the games paving the way for 3D platforming games. The fact that the narrative and storytelling still hold up is the true reason people can continue to play this game time and time again. Controlling Link is not god awful, but it's undoubtedly one of the weakest points of this game. It didn't age well and arguably one of the reasons people would say this game doesn't hold up. The graphics too, they haven't aged well like a fine wine, but instead like a milk. And the remake on the 3DS deals with these two elements. I'm glad with the remake they only changed the things that didn't age so well. The game is essentially the same apart from the controls and graphics. Ocarina does a good job with atmosphere using its music and design. The presentation comes from a concoction of these two elements, and even though the graphics are definitely screaming, "I'm 90s era N64, look at me!" We don't want to look at you in case we have our eye out on the edge of your polygons. It manages to immerse the player with the timeless design from character development to narrative and most of everything outside of the graphics, which were limited by the hardware of the time. Hardware of time. Did you see that? Did you get that? The temples all convey a feeling of dread and loneliness from the start. From the first dungeon you learned your goal is to get in, put the evil down and get out. And that feeling will stay till the very final temple. But you're the only one equipped for this task, and your family tree who cared for you the whole time knew this, and built your skills up using his very last breaths. Ocarina of Time is a simple to understand story. The dialogue doesn't overstay its welcome, it gets straight to the point and it welcomes everyone. But it's also a bit more complicated than that. In these moments of simplicity and universal appeal, there are deeper meanings that you can interpret in mind-blowing ways. The Forest Temple has one of the most unique soundtracks in the game. It sounds like Link is having a fever dream, like he's experiencing a waking nightmare. His psyche is challenged in this temple with hallways that warp, hands on ceilings that throw you back to the start, ghosts in pictures that come out and attack you and you have to hunt them down. The music captures the feeling of worry, confusion, being lost and uncertain, wishing you could go back in time to be more safe. The forest is where he grew up and he was told he could never leave or he would die. And obviously he never left until the most important personification in his life died. The Forest Temple is also the first place he has returned to as an adult, mirroring his childhood experiences. This also happens for the following two temples, mirroring the locations he visited in childhood. Link is just a passenger on this journey. The choice to return to the forest is not his own. The Forest Temple is where Link meets Ganon for the first time since being blasted by him as a kid. And this is the first official proper big man battle. Well, it's not actually Ganondorf, but instead it's Phantom Ganon. But this is still very intense. Link can hold his own, he's no longer a pipsqueak, rallying back to devastate and destructive Ganon balls, using the Master Sword like a true warrior destined for greatness. Phantom Ganon rides around on a black horse like Famine of the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. He's probably inspired or based on this. I know Nintendo like to typically avoid religion or inspiration from spirituality that relates to the real world, but on the other hand, taking inspiration from Christianity and other faiths are not against Nintendo or other game developers, because these themes can be interesting when told within another format. Ganondorf technically, probably, maybe, most likely takes inspiration from all four Horsemen of the Apocalypse: conquest, war, famine and death. They are all four traits to represent the man you're up against. The man who manipulated a child to do his dirty work so he could wreak havoc on the world. The man who pledged his allegiance to the king but planned to overthrow him and the princess secretly. The man who devastated Hyrule and turned it to a shadow of its former self, where evil looms and the dead walk. There's so much stuff to do in Hyrule going off the beaten path. The game is good at letting you go at your own pace, and there's secrets that you'll be discovering for many years of playing. You got these frogs that you can play music with and they grow. Many mini games from bomb chew targets to archery to grave digging and even fishing if you want some downtime away from the conquest of saving the world. Speaking of such a thing. Now we're going to go for some downtime, do some fishing in Hyrule. Navi's going to show us where the hotspots are in this pond. Let's go. Oh, she's just showing us where the fish are. That's fine. Right, let's start. Let's fish. Come on, you stupid fish. This is so ridiculous. You just pull it against him and he's just flapping his face left and right. You pull it to the left when he goes to the right. It's so stupid. Come on, you stupid fish. How long does this have to take? It should just be a quick drag and it's going to be downtime. Oh, finally. Oh. Let's see how big that is. 3 pounds! That felt like a 50-pounder! Okay, this one here is just as tough. I'm sure this is going to be at least a 6-pound fish. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe 5 pounds. At least. That looks even smaller than the previous piece of trash. I couldn't feed one person with that. Never mind. Some might consider this a hack or a cheat, but I want to plump up those fish. You know what? Swimming to the fish hut is a lot more relaxing than actually playing the fish game itself. That's quite stressful. Hey, mister, I remember you. It's been a long time. No, it's not. It's been about 30 seconds. I just took the sword out from the Temple of Time. What have I been doing? Okay, I'll tell you. Killed a dinosaur in a volcano. Flew down the mountain on an owl's back. I got eaten by a giant whale. Traveled through time 7 years. Found a thing that sees through walls. Thiefed the horse from a horse thief. Had a fight with some water. Had a fight with a phantom that was the king of thieves. Then when all was said and done, I went back in time to catch a butterfly on a stick. Believe it or not. You're my only customer. I'm almost out of business. Seriously. That's how you fish as an adult. Much more relaxing.
What's this fish?
Come on, I'm gonna catch this. This is the biggest fish I ever seen. That's at least a 15-pound fish. This is gonna be the best catch of all time. Oh my god, I've been waiting my whole life to catch this. Literally, I came back from the past, back to the future, just to do this. I'm gonna catch this fish. This is the last thing I do. I swear I'm gonna catch this. All them fish, that fish there, they're trying to eat my. This is my fish. I'm eating this today. I'm gonna take it back in time. Me and Maida are gonna eat that fish. I'm gonna go back in time, put the fish back in the pond, then go back in the future, then catch the fish again and take him back in the past. That fish is gonna be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. This is impossible. What happened? You lost it. Are you serious? He broke free. That was so difficult. This is supposed to be downtime. You still got my. How was he still alive? How was that fish still alive after that much time? But one of my favorite secrets is the one where you get a butterfly to land on a stick and something magical happens. No, seriously, it does. Look. The stone said just get him to land on this, something magical will happen. Wait, find a way. Come on. Come on, come back. Come back. Oh, this is frustrating. I've only been doing it for a few seconds. Come on. It's free. Okay, let's try a different one. That one there was a bit too quick. Let's try. All right, this one's quick as well. Let me walk a bit faster. All right. Come on. There it is. That was it. That was it. He landed on the stick. That was it. Ninja quick scope. Let's try again. There it was. That was on the stick. I've done it like 6 times. The sun's gonna go down. I ain't gonna get no chance to do it. Right, the wolves to come out to play. The sun's gone down, and I think these guys are gonna go home, so I might have to wait until the morning. All right, there's one left. I can see one left. This is not looking good. They're going a bit. Oh my god, this is difficult because I can barely see. I didn't even know if that. Where are they gone? Come on, that was it. I had him on the stick. He landed on the stick. I think this is a fake rumor. I don't think this is true. I think the game has a fake rumor. Sun's coming. Why would Nintendo do this? Put a fake rumor in their own game. What? It actually worked. I can't believe it. I swear I thought it was a lie. I thought that was a lie that started in Mario 64. I heard the same thing happens in Mario 64. I'm catching this fairy. I don't care if I have to get rid of one of my fairies to get that fairy. I want that. It's probably a special fairy.
Wow.
Even if it's the same fairy, I still want it because I earned it. I earned that fairy fair and square. Fair and square. That honestly took about 45 minutes just to prove one point in the whole video.
Bootleg man has a stick. How about I turn you into some next
I've
team,
never seen
fam?
that before,
All I
man.
gotta do is swing this stick around you.
Ugh, more time wasting, I see.
Nah, fam, I just want to find an excuse to poke a stick in your eye. Pew, 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 pew.
Going for 100% completion is satisfying. Gradually collecting important things, seeing your heart containers increase one by one from doing the odd jobs and side quests from the townsfolk, exploring the land and finding quarter pieces of hearts. There's a side quest of seeking out golden skulltulas, defeating them and collecting the golden tokens and taking them back to the skulltula house to get a reward for breaking the curse. There is 100 over the land, and some of them are found in dungeons and temples, some are found only at night time, some exclusive to either child or adult Link. By making this part of a side quest to save people, it adds urgency to collect them when you hear the skulltulas scratching around. It's a very distinct sound. It's hard to leave without getting it. Even though this side quest is tedious, I'd strongly recommend a guide for it, because growing up with this game, I had a guidebook. I remember the pages would fall out when turned. They were not made for surviving more than one use. One of the earlier side quests you do as child Link is putting the cuckoos back in the pen for the lady who's allergic to her own cuckoos. That's the truth. That's what she said. Don't get me started on some of the logic in this game. Just do the mission, get a reward. It's a fun fetch quest that teaches you about cuckoos. Just don't attack them. Why don't we attack them?
Not sure, fam, I don't know.
Because of this. Found one. Give me my stick. Whack. I can't get a butterfly on a stick, but I can get a stupid chicken on a stick. Stupid idiot chicken. Whack. It weren't me. I didn't do it. No, I didn't do it. Trust me, it weren't me. I don't know what people think they seen. I didn't swing no chickens with no sticks. It weren't me. Oh my god! Attacked by a chicken. It's like that movie with all the killer crows. Birdemic. That's the one. Jontron reviewed it. He's laughing because he saw me. He's like, they get revenge. I saw you whacking those chickens the whole time. And that's what revenge. Look how dangerous they are. Don't even stop there. Oh, ruthless. You guys are ruthless. You guys are relentless. All right, enough. You've enough now. I need to finish doing my missions, guys. Enough is enough, guys. Enough. Every time you go back to Kakariko Village, they're free range, running around, going mad, running riot. You'd think someone would complain. She's gonna need a bigger gate. But things like this is what gives this game character. The fact that everyone you bump into has their own story, and you can find the value of building a relationship with each of them. Sometimes these relationships benefit you immediately. Other times it's like planting a seed and coming back in adulthood and benefiting from what sprouts out. Occasionally in a literal fashion. And there are a lot of interesting characters to meet along the way, building lifetime bonds, but not all of these bonds are a positive loving connection. Which brings me to Guru. He is one of my favorite characters in any game ever. Everyone picks apart this time paradox associated with him, but for me I find it amusing because he is the personification of being your own worst enemy. Also, it connects both links directly, and Guru's identity revolves around this one action that you are responsible for. Sometimes in a quest for saving Hyrule, innocent bystanders are collateral. So what happens is, you see him in his windmill playing the music box. He's just living up, having a good time, being harmless and cool, inoffensive, nothing remarkable at this moment, but you come back as an adult and he says, "That freaking kid with the green clothes played this stupid song 7 years ago. I'm gonna mash him up, big man. Real talk." So he teaches you the Song of Storms as an adult. And he's like, "Wait, it's you. You're the kid. You ruined my life." Well, not yet, but I'm finna go back in time and ruin your whole existence. If I'm already blamed for this crime, why not go back in time? So yeah, then you go back in time and you ruin his life. And technically what he said becomes true. Oh, it's brilliant. I know it's technically flawed, but come on, just look at him. There's a brilliant trade quest where you have to run about Hyrule doing favors for people. It starts with the same cuckoo lady who Link meets as a kid and has you running about trading for bigger and better things till eventually you get to the best weapon in the game, the Bigoron sword. It's funny that she's the one who gave him the first side quest to get the bottle, and she's been spending her whole time trying to breed this cuckoo that doesn't give her an allergic reaction. She could have spent her time realizing she made the hero of time collect her chickens for a bottle.
Yo fam, I'm not sure why everyone thinks bottles are special, but I got quite a lot of them. I couldn't fit any fairy in this if I tried. Unless I blended it quick fast fam. Yo, bootleg, we got a side quest to the kitchen, fam.
Some people know you're the chosen one, the hero of time, and others don't quite respect it until you prove yourself. One of these people is Ganondorf. Ganon wanted to get access to the sacred realm and knew Link was on a journey to do the same. The adult journey is Link gathering the knowledge, strength and resources to take him down, which funny enough was similar to Ganon's goal. I was struggling to decide if this video would contain major spoilers because it's something I typically try to avoid when making content. I like talking about things I'm passionate about, but I also want others to experience it, and I don't really want to give a rundown of the final moments to this game. I'm going to assume the majority of people have seen the entirety of this game, or at least know the ending. But to risk ruining if even 10 of the people who watch this and haven't seen it, and maybe one of those want to experience this game for the first time, I'll not spoil the final few hours of this game. The payoff to this journey is one that I can remember with crystal clear vision and will never forget. Gathering the 6 medallions and making your way to Ganon's castle, it's remarkable. A truly remarkable experience. It's these experiences and payoffs that give this game replay value, and how many of us can sing its praise and appreciate its prestige in the gaming world. Ocarina of Time is perfectly crafted around replay value. The story is told in a way that will make you notice things better on subsequent plays, because the attention to detail goes so deep, every single word is deliberate from each individual character. You're not forced to go through annoying tutorials to get back into gameplay. Some might consider the pacing of the dialogue and the limitations of the immediate world access an annoyance, but like in Link to the Past, it's part of the story. There are occasional times early on where Navi will halt gameplay for a moment, but this was the early days where New Game Plus wasn't a thing. The compromise they made was perfect. They allowed for new players to feel welcome while also catering to returning players. The opening section in Kokiri Forest is constructed in a way that it feels like a fun playground, even when you're playing multiple times. You do what needs to be done, but it's all done at your own pace, and it's so fun to play around like a small child as a small child. There's a really fun side quest to do as Child Link, which involves the Happy Mask salesman. What it requires you to do is run around the land selling his masks for him, and it's another optional side quest, but I find it funny which characters are involved in it, because if you know the Zelda games, you'll know these specific characters have a lot of importance. Yowza, I'm gonna wear this mask all the time. Yeah, you look great, my friend. Wait, did you just rob me? Did I just guru myself? Is that what I think it is? Alright, the running guy's somewhere around here. Hyrule's pretty big, so I'm gonna have to do a couple laps and look for this guy. He's pretty quick. What am I running for? Rolling is definitely the fastest way. Alright, there he is, but to get to him quicker, I have to run backwards like a speedrunner, because I'm a speedrunner. Alright, this guy, I've been chasing him all day long. He is fast as hell. Where is he gone? There he is, you stupid muppet. Hello, my guy. Alright, hello. I'm right in front of you, can't you see me? Jeez, finally this guy stops running. He ran all day until nighttime when he got tired and he finally said enough's enough. I bet with those long ears you can hear the voice. Well, hear what voices? What are you talking about? It's just a fake rabbit ears. Oh, I read that the skeletons don't come out when you wear the ears. I shouldn't have given them to you. Now, for doing his objective, I get the choice of masks. I got Goron, Zora, and Gerudo mask. Of course I'm going to go for the best mask ever. The Goron mask. You'd be stupid not to be a Goron. These guys are the best. They eat rocks. I can eat rocks now. We can officially be like brothers. We look the same now. You're making me mad? How am I making you mad? Is it a mask? Oh, you want to hear that song? I can do the song with the mask if that's what you want. Oh, you look really angry now. Oh, I'm sorry, I take it back. He does Fortnite dances when he hears Saria's song. Fortnite dances. Replay value goes further than what they intended with challenge runs too. There's speedrunning, the free heart challenges, randomizers, master quest, mods and ROM hacks that revamp the whole design of the game and the buttons too. I will be revisiting mods and ROM hacks for this game in the future. I wanted to give them a brief mention here and a teaser. I briefly mentioned Ocarina of Time cel shaded in my ROM hacks video, but that was just a texture pack. I like the aesthetic mods as they can breathe new life into an old game, but ROM hacks, they can stand as unofficial sequels. And I've never played an Ocarina of Time ROM hack, so it would be exciting to try some of these. I have done a free heart challenge run before, and good lord it was hard. The stipulation set makes it difficult as hell, but extremely rewarding. I remember one of the hardest parts of the run was the room of the 2 Stalfos in the Forest Temple. That took like an hour. That was so hard. The free hearts run will give you a new perspective on this game. Many Dark Souls players do challenge runs, and there is a reason, because it tests the capabilities and resilience of the player, forcing them to think outside of the box and play with completely new strategies and unprecedented ways to them. It's hard to walk out of a dungeon without collecting a heart. It's like leaving your child behind. Now you know how Link fills, you useless heart container. I've never personally done a randomizer or a speedrun of this game, but could imagine a randomizer being interesting. If there was a countdown involved in it too, adding a level of pressure with permadeath, that would be nerve-wracking as hell. Imagine Zelda didn't throw the Ocarina of Time, but instead she threw the Megaton Hammer. Someone put her in the Olympics, please. Guys, how's the adventure going? How many hearts do you have? Did you bump into Skull Kid? Tell that boy to give back my giant wallet. I had a decent stash in that thing.
What, that pagan in the woods? Cha, he's a chief, blood.
No, Kenny didn't take it very seriously.
We didn't actually accomplish anything. Yo, blood, man's wearing some wookie hat looking like a mug. Man's talking to trees, cutting down grass or pennies, my youth. Nah, fam, I'm gone, blood.
There are so many ways to add replay value to this masterpiece, but they are optional because Ocarina of Time is a standalone work of art. Many won't consider it perfect, which is completely fine, and I will be the first to point out its flaws. Many aspects of this game make me want to not play it, but every time I embark on this adventure, I'm reminded of why it holds a special place in my heart. I'm reminded of why I can turn this game on and get nostalgic about the title screen, why running across Hyrule Field in all its grandiose glory is endlessly gratifying, why the encounters with Ganon feel personal, and I take every step to be prepared for the final battle. It tells a story as old as time between good and evil, right and wrong, innocent and guilty. It's more than just a story of restoring order to the world, but also a compelling story of the balance between strength, the mind, and the heart.
Amazing video, are you kidding me? This was my religion, man, growing up. The Great Deku Tree. That was amazing, Ray. 10 out of 10, man.